Welcome to another episode of Between Two Dots, brought to you by Intention Media, where we interview guests and try to discover how to live a meaningful and intentional life. On today's podcast, we're joined by Zach Hartley. Zach is a serial entrepreneur. He's passionate about business. He's been involved in various businesses, but his current businesses include a 3D printing company as well as a media business. This was a really great and enjoyable conversation. Zach has a lot of passion and knowledge that he shares, and I learned a bunch of things about industries that I had no idea about. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and please join me in welcoming Zach to the podcast. Zach, thanks for taking the time to be on the podcast today. Where are you taking the call from?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta right now.
Awesome. And maybe that's a good segue, but has Calgary always been home? Or tell me about the early days in terms of where you grew up, how you grew up.
Yeah, for me, I'm born and raised here in Calgary, Alberta. Grew up playing a lot of sports, basketball and football. Went to high school here and then continued on to university here in the city. I went to Mount Royal University and graduated with a business degree. I did a short stint with a little study abroad semester, but other than that, I've been living in Calgary my whole life. I've done a little bit of travel through Europe and through Asia, but Calgary's been the home base for me, and I love it. It's a great city, so I'm proud to be here.
Awesome. You covered a lot of ground there, so I'll step you back a little bit. Growing up, did you have any siblings, or were you your only child?
Yeah, I've got one sibling. His name's Austin. He's 15 months younger than me. And so we kind of grew up playing sports against each other and built a pretty good little sibling rivalry. And we were pretty competitive and athletic growing up. And so, yeah, it was really good because we kind of pushed each other to get better all the way along. And so we played a lot of the same sports. We went to the same schools. And yeah, he's moved on. He doesn't live in Calgary anymore. He actually lives in New York now. But yeah, up until just a few years ago, we both kind of lived in the same city.
Awesome. Yeah, I have two sons, and they're pretty close in age as well. A little bit further apart than you and your brother, but there's nothing like having a brother and growing up, rough housing, trying to figure things out. I imagine there's a lot of fun there.
Oh yeah, yeah. There were a lot of good times, a lot of arguments as well. I think we put my mom through a couple of tough nights, but other than that, it was I had a pretty good upbringing. My parents did a great job, and I was pretty lucky.
Yeah. Which part of the city did you grow up in then?
I grew up in the South in Bonavista, Vista and went to high school at Bishop Grandin, and then university in Mount Royal.
The Bonavista. So because they have that lake there, right? And the community center. So did you spend a lot of time around that area as well?
Yeah, yeah. We grew up playing hockey and basketball in that arena. We would go to the lake after exams in junior high. We'd spent a lot of time there in the summer. We'd go skate on the ice in the winter. And all of the my elementary school and my junior high were just down the street. So for me, it was a great place to grow up. Everything was super close. My friends were close. Um, and it was just a great situation for the family. And we lived in a cul-de-sac, so we could go out and ride our bikes on the road and play street hockey in the winter. And yeah, it was a good upbringing.
The elusive cul-de-sac. They're like highly coveted, and I get it because I know some people that are able to live in the cul-de-sac. It's kind of cool with all the families, and you're able to kind of, you know, go from house to house. And I'm sure you had a lot of buddies around there as well, right?
Yeah, it was great. You could just kind of step outside and go find your friends and knock on their door, and you kind of had the whole cul-de-sac to play in because it was pretty quiet. So, yeah, growing up, now I see a huge advantage to it. At the time, I kind of took it for granted, but yeah, we would set up jumps in the middle of the road and make the cars drive around us, and yeah, it was a good time. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. I remember we didn't live in the cul-de-sac, but it was a quieter street, but lots of ball hockey, and inevitably there was a few windows that car windows that got were casualties of that type of sport activity. But yeah, it was fun. What kind of student were you? Were you pretty a pretty good student? Were you easily excitable, class clown?
I would say I was a medium to good student. I'd say school kind of came fairly easy to me, but I didn't put a ton of effort into it. I sort of did enough to get my B or B plus and not have to put in too much work and try and get to the gym and shoot hoops or do whatever it was. And so I was a good student, but not a great student. I was pretty lucky because I could get through most of my classes without a whole lot of effort. And I would say I was pretty social. I was friends with all the different kind of groups of people and loved to play sports as well, especially in high school. So I was more of a social butterfly than an academic, you could say.
That's probably served you well. And where does that stem from? Like, was that just innate, or were your parents pretty social as well?
I think it was just more innate than anything. Yeah, I my parents definitely aren't like super social. My dad's a bit of a jokester, so maybe that's where sort of the sense of humor comes from in certain situations. But I think it was more so just I think elementary I probably struggled a little bit trying to find my friend group and sort of find my stride, and then high school came around and it was like, okay, now I understand how things work. I can chat to people, I can play sports, I can join clubs, I can do whatever and kind of find common ground with almost everyone. And so I'd say it flourished a little bit more in high school than in elementary or junior high, and that's probably continued from there.
Yeah, and obviously, I had a chance to read your bio, and you've been involved in a lot of different things. But I'm just curious, just to set the context. What did your parents do for work growing up?
So my mom kind of hopped around from job to job, doing office work to color selections on new apartments to touring different things. My dad, growing up though, worked in oil and gas pretty much his entire life, primarily in safety on the construction and operation side. So he's kind of worked all over the world from Fort McMurray all the way to Africa, Italy, and Australia, kind of touring around in the oil and gas industry. And then for a period of time, my mom was stay at home as well as kind of working odd jobs here and there. So a little bit of both. Neither of them have a university degree though, and they've just kind of worked their butt off to provide for the family.
And so when your dad was touring, uh, was that so? Did he spend lots of time away from home from periods of time, and did you guys ever have a chance to, tag on and go visit and spend a few weeks, that sort of thing?
Not really. When I was younger, probably until grade 8 or 9, he was working basically 1 month on and then 1 month off. But where he was working was usually an offshore drill site on the coast of Africa or one of the countries that I mentioned. And so there wasn't too much of a chance to go visit him. And thinking back on it now, it was crazy. Like the guy left his house for a month to fly to the other side of the world with no cell phone, no internet, no nothing to go work on an offshore drill rig. Like it was pretty crazy when you think about it now. And then I think as I got older, he transitioned to working primarily in Canada. He worked up in Fort McMurray for a little while. We went and visited him there and kind of did the Fort Mac tour and saw what the oil sands were about. And then in university, I had a job where I was selling oil and gas equipment, so I kind of saw a little bit more of it at that point. And went from there. But growing up, it was you'd see your dad for a month every day, and then you wouldn't see him for like a month and a week, and it would kind of flip back and forth there for most of my younger life.
Yeah, and you might have mentioned it, but what did you take in university?
I studied business.
Got
Yeah,
it.
I didn't have a great idea of what I wanted when I went into it. So I kind of went in with, I think it was like a sports and rec degree or a gen ed degree, and then realized business was sort of the classes that I liked most. And in my second year, focused on that and then saw it through.
And what happened after university?
So during university, I started a company where we converted wine and whiskey barrels into furniture. Um, Started that in my fourth year, kind of grew that over the next few years, and then and that's sort of what I worked on when I graduated. That sort of grew a little bit, and we were able to pitch on Dragon's Den and kind of set up a manufacturing shop, and we did okay with that. And then COVID hit, and we kind of shut things down, and I sort of restarted. I was traveling a little bit, sort of restarted a little bit, and now I run a 3D printing business and a media business and a couple other things. So it's
Got
been
it.
sort of I skipped through a lot there, but that's what the sort of roadmap looked like after university.
And where did that entrepreneurial inkling come from? You're just kind of messing around and you said, "Hey, this looks like a business." You had obviously seen Dragon's Den before. Did you watch it pretty regularly?
I definitely seen it. I never really kind of connected the dots of like really being motivated to go on the show until I had a business. The entrepreneurship side of it, it probably started in university. There were a couple of courses and competitions and things like that that would make you think about how you would start a business or would make you actually go build a product or would make you try and sell something. And so I think it was a combination of a couple of those experiences that made me sort of realize, hey, this is probably where my fit is and where I'm most interested. And then I committed to it and I kind of went down that path and dove down it and explored it a little bit more. And it happened to just be the right time and right place at Mount Royal. And in my second and third year, I kind of entered that entrepreneurial ecosystem at the school. And in the fourth year, I was kind of able to start my own thing and flourish in the program there and then take it full time when I graduated. And so I would say that it started with a couple of small experiences in my university classes, just from experimenting, trying out new things, and taking classes that I thought might interest me.
And where did the genesis for the business come from? Like, where did you guys get the idea, and who else was involved? And
Yeah, so that one was kind of interesting. It actually started a couple years before out at my parents' cabin in British Columbia. We built a smoker from a wine barrel to cook ribs and pulled pork on, and we thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And at the time, I was fourth year university trying to figure out what business I was going to start and what product I wanted to sell. And so I decided, hey, maybe I can sell these smokers. Like these things were pretty cool. We used them for a few years at the cabin. They worked really well for us. So we brought a few barrels back to Calgary. I converted them into smokers in my backyard and then posted a few photos on Instagram actually. And one of the editors at CTV News saw it. He sent a journalist to my house to do a story on this small little business that was starting up. And I think that night we sold three or four smokers on basically day one of operations. And so that was the genesis of how that sort of started. But it was basically build a prototype, test it out, try and start this business, get a little bit of media attention, and that attention drove some sales, and then it just slowly snowballed from there. So that was sort of the genesis of, I guess you could say, my first real business.
yeah, and where did you guys get the barrels?
So those ones, especially in the early days, the barrels came from the Okanagan, small, usually family vineyards in the Okanagan. Eventually, we couldn't get enough barrels from the Okanagan, so we went down to California. And then in 2018 or 2019, we signed a licensing deal with Jack Daniels, and we started bringing in whiskey barrels as well. And those came directly from the distillery. So kind of a combination of wherever we could get the best barrels, to be honest.
Cool. And Jack Daniels, if I'm not mistaken, they're located in Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Tiny little town called Lynchburg, Tennessee. They take up like half the town. and all you see is barrel warehouses spotted all over the hills. It's the coolest little place. If you ever get a
Yeah,
chance to visit, it's well worth it.
interesting. And so, in regards to these barrels, like, were they kind of like end of life scenario? Like, so they couldn't be used again, and then so inevitably they would be disposed of anyways. So that's the type of barrels you guys were sourcing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So with the Jack Daniel's barrels, they would only use the barrels once, and then a lot of the times they actually sell them to Scotland for Scotch. In our scenario, they were selling them to us. And then with regards to wine barrels, they'll usually get used a couple of times, usually 3 or 4 times, and then they no longer impart as much flavor into the wine. And so the wineries sort of cycle through them and they have to sell them, so we would buy them.
Got it. It's pretty complex stuff for like your first business as it relates to like, importing supplies and, all these things, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of moving pieces. It was not an easy business to run. It was actually super challenging. And then on top of that, we were manufacturing in Canada using raw materials that weren't necessarily consistent because we were buying from different places. So there were a lot of challenges to the business in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah. And the smokers themselves, just because they had the whiskey and wine barrels, did they actually provide a different flavoring to the food?
I definitely think they did, and it was part of the sales pitch. You could argue that I guess it was kind of based on personal interpretation. The real challenge was that as soon as you add that much smoke to a product and you add that much seasoning, it's kind of tough to pick out the subtleties of a wine or a whiskey flavor. But what we ended up doing was we expanded the product line into also furniture and decor. So we made clocks, we made side tables, we made chairs, we made decor pieces, a variety of different products. And so by the end, it had really kind of expanded into a full product line.
Yeah. And what was uh, how did the Dragon's Den opportunity come about? Did you simply apply and walk through the process, or?
Yeah, we applied just like everybody else. They do live auditions in a couple of cities around Canada. One of them was in Calgary at my old university, so that was kind of nice. So we just sort of showed up, waited in line like everybody else, and we were kind of lucky because our products were super visual, like they were just kind of interesting, and people would say, "Hey, what was that?" And so that year, they were actually filming a bit of a behind the scenes episode. And so they saw us show up in cowboy hats and a little bit of make a little bit of a show. And so they said, okay, we loved your audition. We like your product. We want you to come back tomorrow and do the exact same thing again, and we're going to film it. And so we saw that as a pretty good sign. And they told us that they were filming for a behind the scenes episode, and we ended up getting featured in this special episode. And so you can actually see part of our pitch. You can see us audition at the university, and you can kind of see behind the scenes of how everything worked. So it was a really cool experience. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, we signed up for it just like everybody else. And we put a lot of effort into it, which definitely goes a long way. But we also had a product that was a really good fit for it. So it really just it comes down to, do you have something that could draw attention on TV? That's
100%,
the
yeah.
bigger thing that matters most for Dragon's Den.
Yeah. So what happened after Dragon's Den then?
So you filmed the episode on Dragon's Den, and then in the episode, we walked away with a handshake deal with three of the dragons. And then you walk out, and basically what happens is they say, here's a piece of paper with one of the dragons' email address on it. Send us all your financials, send a business plan, send us all your documents. We'll take a review of it, and then we'll get back to you. And so we send all those documents away. We go back and forth a couple of times, and at the end of the day, nothing ended up happening with it. They basically just decided, hey, we're not going to invest, and good luck, and and that was it. It was actually kind of it was a really interesting process, because when you shake hands on the TV show, it's literally just for TV, and it doesn't actually mean anything. You go through a lot more due diligence after the show, and from a dragon's perspective, it's really interesting because you'll sit there and you'll film for 20 days. You'll probably do 10 to 20 deals throughout that time, maybe more depending on who you are. And then at the end of filming, after 2 or 3 weeks, you now have 20 deals to sort through, and you say, okay, I these are the good ones, these are the bad ones, these are the ones I'm going to pursue. And most of the deals that you see that get a handshake on the show usually don't close and actually execute. And if they do execute, it's usually around different terms than what you saw on the show, just because there's not enough time to actually go through a real valuation and a real diligence process on these companies. And so for us, we didn't actually go through with the deal afterwards. It certainly looked like it on the show, but we did get aired on TV, and that was really the big thing for us, because it was basically a free national advertising campaign. So it worked out really well.
Yeah. So did you guys notice a material spike in sales and attention after the airing of the show?
Yeah, we saw a spike in sales in e-commerce, and then we also used it as a way to sell wholesale into retailers. We used it as kind of a marketing and a sales strategy to get more orders from bigger retailers. So that was definitely a help. We saw a spike in sales, and it was probably the best ROI for the marketing dollars. It took a little bit of time and some money to put everything together, but to drive that much attention and then to be able to use that for your brand and for your company, it's fantastic if you can get on the show, if you can get aired on the show. But that was the other thing, is there were a lot of pitches where people flew out to Toronto to pitch their business and then didn't make it on the TV show. And unfortunately, you're on the hook for that time and money. And so we got pretty lucky with that.
Awesome. And you kind of highlighted the conclusion, but kind of walk us through what happened next after all of that.
Yeah, so that was 2018, I think. And then we operated the business 2019, 2020, and COVID sort of hit. And so at that point, some of the products were doing really well, some of the products weren't doing really well. And so what we did was we pieced out parts of the business that were doing great, and we closed down the other pieces that weren't. We also had another segment of the business where we were actually renting out the barrels to weddings and events and things around the city. And so we sold off that part of the business. We separated the products, and then we shut down everything that wasn't working. And I actually went backpacking to Asia, and then COVID got worse, and Trudeau came on the airs and said, "Hey, Canadians abroad, it's time to come home." And so my trip got cut short. I came home and quarantined for 2 weeks, and then basically started kind of a new chapter in my life. And that's what sort of built to where I am today.
Yeah. So when you got back to Canada, your quarantine, it was a strange time, but what was your thoughts after that? I mean, you guys had done what you needed to do with the business, and uh, like where was your head at? What ideas did you have in terms of what the next step looked like?
Yeah, so that was a really interesting time, because for the first sort of point in my life, I didn't have like another year of school coming up, and I didn't have a business that was consuming my life full time. And so I decided to just kind of take a few weeks and figure out what I actually wanted to do and what I actually wanted to spend my time on. And in university, I took a course on the stock market called Stock Market Fundamentals, and it basically walked me through how the market works. And we spent half the semester on technical analysis and half of it on fundamental analysis, which is basically just evaluating a company and a stock. And I fell in love with it in university, but I never really had the time to pursue it while operating the business. And so when I came back from travel and I had to quarantine, I started getting a little bit more into the markets, and I started sharing some of the research and the analysis that I was doing online, mostly through YouTube videos. And some of the videos started to do really, really well. And so I was basically managing my own portfolio at home and making content on YouTube just to basically share as much knowledge as I can about personal finance and investing. And I made a few videos about how to short a stock and how to short a company. And it was right before GameStop got shorted back in, I think it was 2021. And so some of my videos did extremely, extremely well. and started to actually make money. And so at that point, I realized like, hey, there's an opportunity here to do something with social media. And so ever since then, I've been basically building a bit of a personal brand and a social media business while sort of managing my own portfolio and using that portfolio as the content for the social media business. And so ever since then, I've been building my YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, and I try to share as much advice and knowledge about whatever I'm doing, learning, or investing in. And so that has been what I've started over the last. That's what basically started after COVID, and then since then I've started a 3D printing business as well, which was basically just a small side hustle that has now kind of blossomed into a full business.
When you said some of your videos started making money, sorry, I'm not terribly familiar with the model, but like,
Yeah.
how does that work? Like, what is it like? Is it like a threshold based off the number of views? Are you getting? Is it were you advertising or promoting certain things?
Yeah, so it was actually a couple of different ways. On YouTube, once you get 1,000 subscribers and a certain number of hours of watch time, you are allowed to run advertisements on your videos. Any advertisements that run during your video, I think we get 45 or 55% of that ad revenue. And so if I have ads that are playing in my video and 100,000 people watch that video starts to pay me fairly significantly. And it's also really nice because in the finance space, anybody advertising to that audience pays a lot higher than a lot of the other spaces out there. And so you can start to make some really good money in the finance space if you can build a good audience. And so that was the primary way, was views that YouTube would put ads in front of, and YouTube would pay me. On top of that, there were also certain companies that wanted to start sponsoring me. So Questrade would pay me to talk about their platform, and then I would also make affiliate income if somebody signed up using my link. And so in the early days, those were the three main ways that I would be able to generate income. And it surprised me with how much income I could actually generate just from making videos once you have a following. And so I started to pursue that, and now I've basically built a small little media business around that exact principle.
Got it. No, that's pretty cool. Like, and were you active prior to that time in COVID on social media, personally, or was it like all centered around kind of the business? So I think the previous business was demonstrable, ripe for social media and that sort of stuff. So you guys must have been pretty familiar, but it was only kind of when you're in quarantine and not doing much that you're kind of there to record videos on YouTube, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like we definitely had social media for the business. It wasn't a core aspect of it by any means. It wasn't until I was quarantining and started just sharing my investment videos that I was really active on social media. I had a personal Instagram, but primarily YouTube is where I started. It expanded into TikTok when Shorts sort of really took off, and then now it's kind of grown into Instagram as well. But I definitely wasn't active. I wasn't posting every day on social media before that. But it was during the GameStop spike that I saw, okay, there's traction here, there's a business model here, there's an opportunity here, and I'm helping people by making these videos. And that was really the biggest driver, is it felt like a win-win for everybody.
And how, so obviously you mentioned the media business is still continuing on. And how did this 3D printing company come about then?
Yeah, so this one was kind of interesting. Back in the day with the first company, we would take all of the scrap wood pieces from the products we were making, and we would sell them as smoker chips for your smoker for your barbecue. And they had this cool wine essence or whiskey essence to them, so they worked really well. But they were basically a CPG product, a consumer packaged good product. They came in a bag, they had a barcode. We could sell them anywhere. The problem was they were only worth like $10 a bag, and so shipping them was really, really difficult, especially if I had to ship them to Ontario or Texas or California from Calgary. It was terrible. And so we needed to figure out a way to cost effectively distribute this product. And one of the ways that we looked at was Amazon. And so we sold the product on Amazon for 2 or 3 years, and it actually did really well. And I kind of set up and managed and built the entire program. And I realized how valuable the distribution system at Amazon was. We were able to launch a product, have 2 day distribution, Canada and America and in the United States, nationwide, and we could do it for a couple $100 and a small batch of inventory. And it was just the best logistics system I could ever imagine. And so we ran with that for a few years, and then it was always in the back of my head that I could sell more products on this than just the wine barrel products. And so when COVID hit, when I was doing the YouTube, when I started the media business, I was slowly experimenting with other products on the Amazon platform. And one of the products that ended up doing extremely well was 3D printed. I had outsourced the 3D printing. I designed it. I had somebody else make it for me, and then I would sell it on Amazon. And it did extremely, extremely well. And so I wanted to expand the product line, and the margins just looked a whole lot better if I did the 3D printing myself. And so I bought one printer, tested it out, started producing the product on one printer, reinvested the profits back into another printer, and slowly realized more and more profits and kept investing it back into the business. And now it's grown to 70 printers and one full-time employee and a part-time employee. And now we sell a variety of 3D printed products on Amazon, but it has just slowly evolved over time. And it's amazing because I use the Amazon logistics network, and my products are available with 1 or 2 day shipping across Canada and the United States. And I don't manage any customer service. I ship everything in bulk, and Amazon takes care of most of the hard work. So it's
Cool.
I'm I've slowly evolved the business around it.
Yeah. But I'm curious on that part. So, with the Amazon logistics network, so you're selling a product. I guess do you set the price, or is there like a price, like, like verification system that Amazon has, and you have to kind of get it approved? And then like walk me through like what the customer pays, and what Amazon takes, and what you take as profit, and all that stuff.
So with regards to approvals on Amazon, there's no like formal process unless you're in a regulated category. So if you're doing anything with kids or something that's edible or expires or something that's regulated, then you'll have to get it approved or you'll have to show certification. For most of my products, though, they're organizers and accessories for primary products. And so no approvals required. I completely control and set the price. And then like I said, I produce products in bulk and I ship it to the Amazon warehouse. That inventory gets stored at the warehouse. It gets distributed amongst other Amazon warehouses, and then Amazon handles the delivery, and the product is available on Amazon Prime so that it can be purchased in 1 or 2 or delivered in 1 or 2 days. The margins on Amazon are pretty simple. On most products, they'll take 15% off the top of it, off the revenue or off the retail price. And then on top of that, you have to pay a price for picking and packing the product. That's going to depend on the size and weight. Usually for me, it works out to about $5. So if I sell a product for $20, they're taking $3 of it in a commission. They're probably going to charge me $5 in picking and packing fee. That leaves me with $12 left over for the cost of the product and my labor and my overhead. At the end of the day, I'm usually operating on around 30% profit margins. But the really nice thing is that 90% of my sales come from the United States. And so the currency conversion is absolutely amazing for my business. And so the margins definitely fluctuate. And then for new products, I sell them at much lower margins in order to build traction, build reviews, and get some momentum on the listing. And then I increase the price as I think I can, to be honest with you, as more reviews come in and as we start to build volume. So it's a bit of a dynamic system, but
Yeah,
30% is what I try to walk away with.
cool. And because of the logistic network and how much heavy lifting that they're doing, you only sell through Amazon, or do you have like a point of sales um, access point that people can kind of order directly from you via
Yeah.
your website and that sort of thing?
Um, so I'm trying really, really hard not to ship individual orders from my location. And so I use Amazon for sales in Canada and the United States on the Amazon platform. I also sell the exact same products on Shopify and on Etsy. However, I have a 3D print farm in the United States that fulfills all of those orders. So anything that's going direct to consumer through Shopify or Etsy gets fulfilled by a very large print farm in the United States automatically. And then anything that's sold through Amazon, I stock the inventory from my location here in Calgary and I ship it to whatever warehouse Amazon requires.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool that these systems and companies exist, and you're able to kind of build your business on top of that infrastructure, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing because living here in Calgary, shipping is a absolute nightmare. For me to send a box this big across the country is $40, but I can send 500 units to an Amazon warehouse for $100, and then they'll handle all the shipping. It's absolutely crazy, and then to get it over the border is a whole nother
Mm,
headache that's about to get worse with tariffs. And so. Yeah, as a small business, Amazon is an amazing tool. I'm surprised more people don't use it. But it also there's a big learning curve and it's a lot more involved than Shopify or Etsy.
yeah. Have you thought of making videos for business owners on that side of things, or are you continuing to just focus on the financial advice? Because, I think all this is kind of interesting and valuable information as well.
Yeah, yeah, I totally am. So I've the financial advice and the personal brand, those two things are kind of linked together for me. And I look at that as sort of its own entity. And then with regards to the 3D printing, I have a social media channel for the products themselves that I make product videos on, and I try and drive sales through those videos. And then I have another channel called Hartley Printing, where I basically talk about the business side behind 3D printing. And in that one, I talk about the numbers and how I'm doing and how I run my farm and what I'm doing there. And so all of it is content. And um, now it's just about where do I spend my time to get the best ROI and what is the best strategy to grow these businesses.
Yeah, cool. That sounds like you're having fun, you're enjoying it, and you can. So how much content do you create on, like, I don't know how you measure that from a daily, weekly basis and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it comes in waves a little bit depending on what the urgency is and what's happening with the businesses. But I try to make a couple of short form videos per day. So let's just say 2 to 6 short form videos a day. None of my videos are super high production value. I try to keep them very value driven, and I put most of my effort into trying to just provide as much value as possible rather than make the videos really fancy. And so I try to make a couple of short form videos a day, and then I ideally try and make 2 or 3 long form videos a day, split between course content and YouTube videos. But it definitely depends on what's going on in the big picture.
Yeah. And you're doing the editing and all that stuff by yourself, or do you have like a little help on that?
When I'm doing courses, I will film a large amount of videos, usually 10 or 15 videos, and then upload everything to Google Drive and have somebody overseas edit it. But when I'm doing short form videos, I'm filming and editing on my phone on the spot. And if I'm going to film a YouTube video, I'm probably editing that myself. It depends a little bit on timing and whether there's sponsorships or anything involved. But if I can outsource the video editing, I will.
It's a different world, in terms of what you can do, how you can create all the things. And you mentioned personal brand a few times. I think that's more important than ever. But how did you get on to this, and how has your thinking evolved around effectively being the face of your multiple businesses.
It has, like, being the face of the social media has definitely changed my perspective on the importance of a personal brand. And I think, especially as time goes on, and especially over the last 10 years, it has evolved significantly. Um, where the personal brand is almost more important than a lot of the companies that brand represents or works for. It also it opens so many doors. It's unbelievable. The number of opportunities that I get now, or people that I get to meet, or companies that I get to work with, is pretty astonishing for the size of my channel and the amount of work that I've put in. Um, and so over the last few years, I've realized building a personal brand is going to be harder and harder in the future because people are going to realize how valuable it is very, very quickly. Doing it takes time, though. It takes a lot of effort, and it's not an easy thing to do in the current world that we live in.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if
I
that answers your question, but
Yeah, it totally does. And I imagine consistency is a big part of that, right? Because when you kind of build patterns and ultimately you're engaging with people because they come to expect a certain quality, a certain cadence, a certain level of value. So it's like you said, it's like cultivating a community, if you will, right?
yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. Your followers is a community, and you want to provide value so that every time you post a video or you post content, they engage with it, they like it, they comment it, they get value out of it so that they keep coming back. And the algorithms nowadays are very, very good, that they will see if you're creating value, they're going to show it to more people, and that's how you go viral. And so it's all about building a community, building trust, building a personal brand, building that reputation, and consistently providing value. At the end of the day, it's about either being entertainment or providing education. In most scenarios, people are either looking to learn something or they're looking for a break from their life. And if you can help them with that, that's how you build value on social media.
So knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself? Perhaps before you started this whole media journey, when you're sitting there being quarantined for a couple weeks and uncertain about the future, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
What piece of advice would I give my younger self? Buy Bitcoin and Nvidia, I guess. Yeah, like, when on the investing side, it's like, think long term, because you're way better off building a portfolio that you don't have to worry about, that will do well over the long term, than anything else. That's the rule for 99% of people. When it comes to social media, just post it. The more content you can put out, the better. You never know what videos are going to do go viral or blow up for you. And I have seen probably 20 times in the last few years where one video completely changes the entire direction of somebody's life because it blows up and their business takes off, their brand takes off, their channel takes off, whatever it might be. And so please remember that one video can change your life. All it takes is one click of that post button, and you never know what's going to happen or who's going to see it. And if you have the time and you have the wiggle room, explore what you are most interested in, because no matter how much money you make, if you're not passionate about it after 2 or 3 years, like, it's not going to be fun anymore. You're going to be unmotivated and the money wears off. And so find something that you actually like doing and talking about, because that's what will come through to other people and make the difference in the long run.
No, that's awesome. Um, and what what keeps you centered? Like, do you have like a morning routine, non-negotiables, things that you do to kind of keep your head right so you can show up?
I try to take advantage of fun opportunities that come up whenever possible. And so when I'm working, I work really hard. I don't have a crazy morning routine or a 10-step process. When I'm in the zone, I wake up, I drink some green juice, and I go to work 10 minutes after I wake up. Um, what but when an opportunity comes up to go on a ski trip or go to Europe or to spend time with my girlfriend or whatever it might be, I try and jump on that whenever I can. And so when I'm working extremely hard, and when I'm not working, I'm trying to enjoy my time as much as possible. And I'd say that's what helps me stay balanced and motivated is um, I get a lot of joy from seeing the accomplishments of hard work and seeing progress on a daily basis. And so I want to try and enjoy my time off when I'm not working super hard as much as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is are you able to kind of share a time or instance that was challenging or seemingly like a setback or failure, but you couldn't see it at the time, but there was some sort of positive that came out of that, whether that's a learning or something unexpected?
Yeah, it was probably the first company after university because there were certain parts of the business that were doing extremely well, and then certain parts of the business that weren't doing well at all. And so, being able to look at the situation and say, "Hey, we need to make a pivot here. We need to make a change. We need to shut this down. We need to sell this off. We need to do whatever." It was super super difficult to do in the moment because it meant a lot of tough and negative conversations with a lot of people. But looking back on it, it was we got lucky with the timing, and it was probably the best decision that I could have made. And it was a it was something where everything looks bleak in the moment, but 6 months or a year later, you go, wow, I'm so glad I'm not doing that anymore, or I'm not going down that path anymore. And so I would say if you ever feel like you're at rock bottom, just remember that's the best place to build a solid foundation and start building. That was a quote that always stuck with me and sort of the mindset I had at the time.
Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts that come out of that. I think as an entrepreneur and business owner, you know, everyone has those types of moments, those dark nights of the soul where you're like, what am I doing here? And where do I go where there doesn't seem like there's a path? But it also reminds me of like a Tony Robbins quote where I think he says, the quality of your life will be directly proportional to the amount of discomfort you can tolerate. So just being comfortable and sitting in that uncomfortableness and that pain is going to go a long way down the road, right?
For sure. And along those lines, there was a quote. I don't know who said it, but it was the definition of being exceptional is doing the stuff that other people don't want to do and aren't willing to do it. So if you want to be special, you want to be exceptional, you want to do something that other people can't do, you have to do the work that other people aren't willing to do. And yeah, it's all the same thing. It's personal discipline, it's mindset, and it's saying, here's the strategy that I've thought through, and now I'm going to execute on it no matter what.
Awesome. Uh, Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey, and there's different phrases as it relates to the path and your purpose. Uh, if someone were to ask you what your purpose or your impact is, what would you say?
I would say that with all of the content and everything that I'm trying to do, my purpose would be to learn the lesson the hard way and try and help other people learn the lesson the easy way.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. Um, really enjoyed this conversation, though. I think there's a lot of nuggets there. It's always great to hear the story and the journey and the twists and turns along the way. But I wanted to turn the floor over to you just to allow you to talk to our listeners as it relates to how people can get connected, where you are, websites, social media handles, anything that you want to draw your attention to. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, if anybody's interested in seeing some of my videos or learning a little bit more, Check me out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My handle or my @ is Zach Hartley on most of those platforms. And if you want to learn more about investing or business or 3D printing or anything that I'm doing with regards to making money, I post all of my course content for free on Skillshare for 1 month. You can sign up, you get 1 month free, and if you can take it and finish any of the courses in that time frame, they are completely yours for free. So if you're interested in learning about anything that I'm talking about or anything I'm doing, that's where you can get it all for free.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, Gilbert. I really appreciate it.